So just before I go through this topic of the two easts and the two wests, I wanted people to see what it is that I've been regularly looking at one of the houses that I visit. And at first, I didn't really pay much attention. I think I might have read what was on the top right corner. So let me just go into that. So as you should be able to read, Rabbul Mashriqaini or Rabbul Maghribain. So that's what this recording is all about. Lord of the two easts and the two wests. But I just thought it just, it's something cool the way the rest is written here. And to be honest, I didn't even notice that bit, but I was trying to figure out what the big part was. And it was only after a while that I realized, oh, okay, this is from Surah Rahman. And this is Tukadhiban. And here you have Fabi ayyi alai rabbikuma. And then over here, Tukadhiban. So the black bit is Tukadhiban. And then the white bit starts from here. So Fabi ayyi alai rabbikuma Tukadhiban. So interesting anyway. I thought I'd just share this. So something that I've been regularly looking at for a good, I think a year now actually. So yeah, anyway, no more on that. And now on to dissecting what this Rabbul Mashriqaini or Rabbul Maghribain actually means. So the east and the west, that's Al-Mashriq and Al-Maghrib. So they appear to be the only directions one can turn wherever they are. These are again the words of Allah. Yeah, there's only east and west mentioned in the Quran. That should make people think. There's only east and west. فَأَيْنَمَا تُوَلُّوا. Yeah, the only directions one can turn wherever they are, east and west. Check out the references for yourself. Have a look at them. They appear to be the only divided up parts, regions of the earth. مَشَارِقَ الْأَرْضِ وَمَغَارِبَهَا. مَشَارِقَ الْأَرْضِ وَمَغَارِبَهَا. So look at these two ayats and you'll understand that Allah is describing the earth as being divided in east and west. مَشَارِقَ الْأَرْضِ وَمَغَارِبَهَا. So that's how Allah describes the earth, divided into east and west. And further than that, Allah describes of those east and west, those are further divided by two easts and two wests. Rabbul Mashriqaini wa Rabbul Maghribain. You'll start to understand this. If you're following the information we've been following, you'll start to understand how this fits into the true cosmology of the earth. Two easts and two wests. So you've got the east and you've got the west. As Musa alayhi salam said to Fir'aun, Rabbul Mashriq wal Maghrib. So one more time, because obviously this is going to take a while for people to process, as it did for me. So the earth is all about east and west, just like that YouTuber said, it's all about east and west, stupid. And yeah, it really is. Allah only mentions east and west. So the earth is split between east and west. Further than that, Allah goes on to say it's split into two easts and two wests, which again in the podcasts and conversations with video explanations and drawings, inshallah, we'll explain everything. So Allah goes further with a special emphasis. So you can check this if you don't believe it. So this is interesting. Special emphasis on the distance between the two easts. Bu'dal Mashriqain. Bu'dal Mashriqaini. Have a look at that for yourself. So the distance between the two easts. Bu'dal Mashriqain. And again, especially mentioning the Lord of the eastern parts. So all of this, when people don't believe the true cosmology, they start making up things like, all of the sunrises and all of the sunsets and all of the points of the sunrises and all of the points of the sunsets. It's simple. It's Mashriq, Maghrib, East, West. Mashriqain, Maghribain. Two Easts, two Wests. Mashariq, Magharib, all of the East and all of the West. Or actually, to be more precise, all of the eastern parts of the land and all of the western parts. Al-Mashariq. So Allah brings forth the sun from the east. Yati bishamsi minal mashriq. At the time of the sun's first appearance. Wal ishraq. When the light shines. Wa ashraqati. So one more time. Allah brings forth the sun from the east. Yati bishamsi minal mashriq. At the time of the sun's first appearance. We all know ishraq time, yeah? That's when the sun comes from the east, ishraq. When the light shines. Wa ashraqati. And it's also mentioned in the Quran. When that awful cry of punishment arrives at the sun's first appearance, daybreak. As-sayhatu mushriqeen. Again, okay, I won't go into all of this, so you can check these out, but we'll be, I keep saying this, we'll be going over this in detail, inshallah, with conversations, group conversations, with hopefully video evidence and drawings, etc. Okay, an eastern place that Maryam alayhi salam withdrew to. So makanan sharqiyan. Yeah, that's not a sunrise. What is it? That's nothing to do with sunrise. It's an eastern place. Makana sharqiyan. Okay, and this one, the sun departs. Taghrubu or gharabat. That's where the sun departs. Not where the sun sets. That's where the sun departs. Towards the west. Maghrib. Again, I've mentioned this before. Everyone knows Maghrib. Yeah, it's the west. Towards the west of its journey. Wagharabibu sud. Towards the dark black west, it seems. Black as a crow. Ghuraban. It's all in there. Dark, black, you know. It makes sense. The east is where the brightness comes from. And the west is where the darkness is. It makes sense. Disbelievers are challenged to bring the sun from the west. Al-Maghrib. Yeah. So, you know, that challenge is my Lord brings the sun from the east. You know, if you are true, then you bring the sun from the west. That's the challenge in the Quran, isn't it? The sun basically has an eastern arrival and the departure west. So, Tulu ish-shamsi wa qabla al-ghurub. That's mentioned twice in the Quran, these two references. And quickly trying to wrap up now. Is there a blessed olive tree at the center? That I'm going to save for the fourth part, which is the stars and the trees that prostrate. La sharqiyati wa la gharbiyya. So this tree that Allah mentions in Surah Nur, neither of the east nor of the west. Again, I'm not going to do that here, but I have an idea and we'll save that for part 4, which is the stars and the trees that prostrate, inshallah. But to emphasize this point about why this part 3 that we're doing is all about the east and west. Musa alayhi salam declares to Fir'aun, Lord of the east and the west, Rabbul Mashriq wal Maghrib. Must remember that. This will take some time to digest for many people, especially without video evidence and explanations. The commandment was decreed to Musa alayhi salam on the western side. Bijanibil Gharbi. What Allah swears by, Lord of the eastern parts and the western parts. I only understood this today once I completed my study on Mashriq and Maghrib. So one of the viewers commented saying, Brother, kindly you have said Masharik means eastern parts and vice versa for western parts. This is categorically wrong, brother. I love it when they say that. Categorically wrong. This is categorically wrong, brother. Masharik means rising places or many easts. By saying parts, you're putting your interpretation and changing Allah's words, which is a wrong thing. Yes, it is. If you are doing that. Makan means place. So Allah would make parts, regions, places by stating that. It is clear you are doing same mistake what you accuse of the scholars. Sorry to say, also you are not Arabic speaker and you are not verify this with Arabic expert scholar. question mark. Peace. Assalamu alaikum. Okay, I still appreciate the comment though. So yeah, my response was immediately to give him the reference 7137, and I said in response, tell me what masharika means if it does not mean eastern parts and regions, because that's what I'm being accused of, that I'm making things up. So I gave him the reference 7137 where the same word is used, and so I said, are you saying Sahih International, Mufti Taqi Usmani, Abdullah Yusuf Ali, Abdul Halim, Jalalain and Ibn Kathir are all wrong? Yeah. Do I need to verify with some Arabic expert scholar? Do I need to know the Arabic grammar? It seems not. I did say that I am meticulous and not making things up. This is good. This helps. Do bring me more misunderstandings, inshallah. I'm glad to see at least 5 people agreed with that response. Right, so as you can see now, I've gone to 7137, and if you go down, Surah Al-A'raf 137, and here we have the confirmation of Mashariq, eastern parts, and Magharib, western parts. Not me, I'm not making this up. So as I said, if you look at what even say international, eastern regions, it doesn't really matter whether you choose parts or regions, but the whole point is the Mashariq and Magharib is eastern areas and western areas, eastern parts, eastern regions, western regions. And Mufti Taqi Usmani, he says, inherit the east and the west of the land. Abdul Halim as well, east and west of the land. And here Ahmad Raza Khan, he always has interesting parts in his translation, so he has eastern and western parts of the land. Yeah, eastern and western parts of the land. And here we have Jalalain, eastern parts and the western parts of the land. And then Ibn Kathir, you've got here, yes, eastern and western parts of land. Mashariq, Magharib, eastern and western parts. Yeah. Well, so much for making that up myself and putting interpretations myself. So now if you go to 7040, those that are, or those that seem to be imposing their own interpretations, rightly or wrongly, onto the text, that will become clearer here. So if Mashariq and Magharib is understood to be eastern and western parts of the land, so the eastern part of the earth and the western part of the earth, then where does this rising and setting come from? So you have to keep the consistency. If it is agreed that Mashariq and Magharib means eastern part and western part, then you can't be saying things like rising and setting points. As you can see here, rising and settings, even in say international, Lord of the Easts and the Wests. So it's very common still. Lord of the East and the Wests. Lord of the East and Wests. Yeah, Ahmad Raza Khan seems to have got a lot right. I think Ahmad Raza Khan understood Lord of every East and West. Yep, Ahmad Raza Khan seems to have understood, just by knowing that we live on a stationary earth. I think it can change a lot of how you look at what is in the Quran, rather than believing that we live on some spinning ball. Yep, so Ali Qurai, Lord of the East and the West, he's got that. Ali Kuli Qurai, Lord of the East and West. So yeah, it's very commonly, as you can see, even the English literal, it knows that even though people have said sun rises, it knows that it's a possibility that it's the Easts and the Wests, and that's the English literal. Easts and Wests, meaning, so you've got the singular, you've got the dual, and then you've got more than that. Lord of every East and every West. The point is more than two. So Allah references the East and the West as singular, dual, and plural. It's that simple. Not sunrises and sunsets and points of sunrise and points of sunsets. Yep, so one more time. Ibn Kathir, I swear, فَلَا أُقْسِمُ بِرَبِّ الْمَشَارِقِ وَالْمَغَارِبِ, I swear by the Lord of the Easts and the Wests. And I think the brother might have been confused because I didn't say that there isn't two Easts or two Wests. Yeah, and then accuses me again for interpretations, giving no base. Yep, and so my response, at Basira, you have now accused me of interpretations 3 times. I still have love for you expressing what you are though. And so I will try to help you clarify any misunderstandings. Here is the base. Yep. So he says I have no base. Yeah. So the 2 Easts, yeah, 2 Wests, that verse in Surah Rahman. The tree at the center, neither of the East nor of the West. And I won't go into that because that is an unclear verse. Clearly, that is an unclear verse. But yeah, it's not that we're not allowed to think about that. And I have an inkling. But more on that in the future, inshallah. What Allah swears by, Lord of the eastern parts and the western parts. I only understood this today once I completed my study on Mashriq and Maghrib. I've been wondering, what is that? I understand the 2 East and the 2 West, but what is Mashariqi wal Magharibi? Once you look at the other ones mentioning the same Mashariq or Magharib, then it makes sense. Lord of the eastern parts and the western parts of this earth. It's that simple. But if you believe the NASA scientific model, then you're going to get confused and you're going to start to say things like Lord of all the sunrises and all the sunsets and all the points on the earth where the sun rises and all the points where the sun sets. But it's simple. Birabbil Mashariki wal Magharib, Lord of the eastern parts and the western parts of this world. So that's what Allah says. Lord of the East, Lord of the West. Lord of the 2 East, Lord of the 2 West. Lord of all of the eastern parts, Lord of all the western parts. And Allah knows best. Jazakallah khair for listening. And Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.